Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today, a little different video. I'm actually going to talk to you about why I stopped using steroids. I get asked this, are you still using anything? You know, you're not as big, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm going to talk about this today and get into detail with it, alright? But before we get into that, I have to reiterate that I am not a doctor. Anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I am not advising nor condoning you to use any of the things that we discuss in any way, shape, or form. So let me get into it. First things first. Let's go back in time and just give you a little bit of background on me. So in high school, I was a 4-sport athlete. I played basketball, baseball, football, and tennis. I've just always been the biggest sports junkie. You guys that really know me or follow me know that like my love, everything that goes on in my life really revolves around sports. And that's what got me into the PED side of things and the studying and me being a trainer, health and fitness, taking every sort of class possible from athletic training to biomechanics, anatomy and physiology. I mean, I've taken it all. Now, I actually in college ended up majoring in finance. I went through a ton of exercise science courses, but what I realized is you can get certified for everything under the sun and get into that field, but you don't necessarily have to have that degree. And I prefer, because I know I'm going to be a business owner and because of my interest in like real estate and things of that nature, I decided to go with the finance route and then get all of my certifications with NASM in this field. So I've always been involved in athletics, coaching, everything. All right, I've coached high school basketball, all that you can imagine. But then that got me, into after college basketball, because I played, and don't think that I'm talking like I'm some big shot here. I played Division III college basketball, okay? It's no big deal. But, and my dream was always to go higher than that. However, injuries really plagued me. I actually broke my back in college. Not to the point where you can't walk or anything, but several vertebrae in my back just derailed my career. Anyway, long story short, I got sick of rehabbing. And, actually got into modeling, which I completely tried to avoid. But my mom kept pushing me to do it. And I thought, well, I can't play sports anymore, like competitively like this on this level. So, okay, I'll try it. I ended up signing a contract, going to Italy, doing modeling, etc. Anyway, that gives you a background on me in terms of, what I've done. After that, I started just really getting into training. But then I started coaching because... And when I'm talking about coaching, I'm not talking about sports, I'm talking about bodybuilders and athletes, because I had been studying PEDs, because what really got me into it, to be completely brutally honest, was baseball and the PED scandals. And then I started to get into it. And once I got into it, and I just kept studying and studying and studying, which I still do to this day, I started to get more into that level in terms of not just, athletic training, but then coaching cycles, things of that nature, training bodybuilders, whatever. So I've been doing this over a decade now. Now, obviously, being in the field that I'm in, I wanted to start experimenting with things on my own. Look, I am no bodybuilder, never wanted to be any sort of big guy. I am completely uncomfortable being big. I can gain weight so easy and I can lose it so easy, and I have to work extremely hard to stay really lean, etc. I run 10 miles a day, 5 days a week. I'm a cardio freak. I've always loved cardio. Clearly playing, things like basketball, especially with endurance, sprinting, HIIT, high intensity interval training, and then needing endurance. I'm a runner in nature. I compete in triathlons. I train for those. I train for marathons. So clearly being a big, large guy is not fitting into all that. Plus, my comfort level is just not there. I don't like being large and things of that nature. I just don't. I've done some bulking cycles. You can go back and see where I've gotten, gained 20, 30 pounds from where I'm at now. But that's not my comfort level, and that's not where I want to be. However, I feel like just because I'm book smart with these things that you need to experiment with them. So I've tried pretty much almost everything. I really try to avoid bulking compounds, but I've used them because I want to learn them, more so than just reading and then teaching and coaching and seeing what other people. So not only do you have firsthand experience, but you've got the coaching experience and all of these things, so to speak. But, you know, as I've gotten older now, 37 going on 38, I've already inhibited, you know, not completely eradicated, but inhibited being able to have a child, you know, and that's one thing that I can't describe to you the regret that I have there. I've on TRT because of, you know, using, you know, steroids. I probably didn't need to be put on TRT, a major mistake that I made. And that, you know, I have that, nothing to blame but myself, going against every rule that I teach. Okay, one of the reasons I teach so hard is because of experience too, and maybe rules that I've broken. But, you know, I've made promises to my mom and my wife. I'm one of the biggest family guys you're ever going to meet. Okay, I've done a complete 180 from the guy I used to be. And when I met my wife, and then when my dad passed away, which was one of the most brutal, horrible times I've ever gone through, and I'm still not over it. I don't know if I ever am going to get over it. Probably not. But always been a really big family guy. But after that, it was like, okay, you got to step up and be a man and start taking care of everybody that took care of you, which is what I've done. So I've made a lot of mistakes. Look, I can sit up here and teach all day, but I'm never going to act high and mighty and try to spit something at you that's not true. I've made a ton of mistakes, but what I try to do is learn from those, not make the same mistakes again, and teach every single buddy what I can to help them not make the same mistakes. And I've seen a million other people make mistakes over this time, and I just try to teach. Some people appreciate it. Some people think I'm a jerk because I tell it like it is. I'm not going to change that, okay? You never change who you are. But for me in my life and the goals that I have and things I do, the steroids don't fit for me. I will never stop teaching you guys. Never. Because I love to teach. And I love this. I love this whole world, you know, bodybuilding, all of it. But so just because I stop using them doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to teach them and not continue to study every single day. And certainly I'm going to continue to coach people. I do that constantly, and I love doing that. I love seeing results. I love seeing people succeed. I love having a hand in helping them to succeed however I can. But for me, it's just not who I am. Look, you know, some people will go, well, how can I listen to you if you're not big, da-da-da-da. Okay, that is just so idiotic, I have to tell you. Look, I don't care about people that take shots at me. It doesn't bother me. In fact, I just want you to know, if you do that, that I oftentimes go get my wife or whoever's around and we sit back here and laugh, because I can't believe that people actually sit back and do that in their free time. Because if I did that in my free time, I literally wouldn't know what to do with myself. But, you know, if that's what you want to do, fine. Just know that it doesn't bother me. Okay, clearly, I'm still doing this, but it is funny to me. But look, anybody with good genetics can go take everything under the sun, eat all day long, and get big. That does not mean they know what they're doing, and it does not mean what they're teaching you is right or healthy. You know, I get that, and I'm just like, wow, you know, I've been doing this a very long time. I don't know everything at all right? And I always live by the motto, you can never know too much, but you can always know too little. And things change. Look, things change constantly, so you have to stay on top of this. New things come out, new protocols, new ideas, new drug types, new studies. You have got to stay on top of things daily. You can't base yourself off knowledge you had 5-6 years ago and think you know everything. You have got to it's just like a sport. You got to practice every day. Just because you're the best one day, if you don't keep practicing, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to catch up with you. All right? And I know that firsthand because I was always better than everybody at basketball. And guess what? I started partying and not caring as much. And everybody started to pass me right before my eyes like that. So I'm always perfecting the craft, and I'll always be here to do this. I'm just not going to continue on a road that, you know, of using them where I don't really want a lot of the things that you get from them. Look, I love to get extra cut, have extra vascularity, extra this, extra that, but in the long run, you know, I'm opening a new gym. I've got to take care. I've got other, you know, investments, real estate things that I do, etc. I've got people that need me to take care of them. And so I've got to look at that first. So if you're wondering, or if you asked, this video will tell you all, so you can learn. And you know, it's like, you watch this and you see a guy on here teaching, and it almost sounds robotic to me. You don't get the real personality. You don't get to know the person. That's why I'm going to start doing the podcast and things like that, so you can really see me, who I am. But there's a lot more personality there and a lot more to me than just the guy that sits here and teaches, or that you assume things about, or you heard this about, or somebody said this about, because all of these things go on online where people like to say this and assume this and say this and make this up. It's like, look, I just deal with it because it is what it is. It comes along with the territory. When you try to do something, some people love you, and the more you try to do, there's more people that are going to hate your guts. And I don't get that because I've never felt that way about anybody, but hey, that's the way it is. And if you're going to do things, I always believe you've got to have thick skin, which I have the thickest skin possible. You can say whatever you want to me, and it really doesn't bother me. I could really care less. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't change my home life. It doesn't change anything. So you can have all the fun or say whatever you want. It really looks pathetic, but whatever. Be it that it may, it's not going to stop me from being here to teach you guys and etc. But, like I said, things in life don't fit in for me to keep doing it, in terms of using them. So that's a little explanation for you, kind of get an understanding and get to know me a little bit more, know who you're talking to, and it's always better to really know the person a little more than just to assume things, I guess. So that being said, www.icearms.com/forums. I'm on the evolutionary forum as well as the elite fitness forum. You can also email me, dylan@icearms.com, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.